Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Friday. The weekend is very nearly here. Big weekend as well. Arsenal versus Manchester United at Old Trafford on Sunday. I will be heading up to Manchester for that one. Fingers crossed for a decent result. If Arsenal win there, I think it's going to be the first time since the 70s, I think, that it will be back-to-back league wins for Arsenal at Old Trafford. So fingers crossed that is the case. We'll talk about that game a little bit later on in the show. First, Mikel Arteta's doing his press conference a little bit later on, and then myself and James Benge are going to be sitting down for Inside Arsenal extra time after that press conference. So that will be going, I'll be putting that out sort of later on this afternoon, probably 4 or 5 o'clock, something like that. So keep your eyes peeled. And if you want myself and James to speak about anything, any questions you've got to ask, as usual, any comments, opinions, you know what to do. Get into the comments below here. Start it with extra time. Leave your comments, your questions, and we'll pull some of them together and get them included in the second half of the show once we've sort of gone over the big events of the week and what Mikel Arteta has had to say in his press conference as well. But still plenty to discuss in this morning's show. We're going to talk about Nwaneri and a potential England call-up, not just for him, but for Myles Lewis-Skelly as well. I'll give my thoughts on whether I think that should happen. Love to get your views on that as well. I think it's an interesting little debate. We'll talk about the Arsenal sporting director hunt, which fingers crossed is going to be coming to a conclusion pretty quickly, and plenty of other little bits and pieces to go as well. But I thought we'd start on Nwaneri and Myles Lewis-Skelly. Now, Thomas Tuchel's first ever England squad is going to be named in the next couple of weeks, and there's lots and lots of opinion out there and commenters out there talking about whether Nwaneri should be in it for the first time, whether Myles Lewis-Skelly should be in it for the first time. You know, we heard, I remember it was Joe Cole in the Leicester game was describing Nwaneri as Messi-like almost, and there's been lots of things. Danny Murphy was saying he should be in the England squad, you know, put him in, he's our best young talent and everything like that. And at the moment, the FA, Sammy Motbell from the Mail was reporting it yesterday in his excellent weekly column, which you really should read if you don't read it already. It's fantastic column, covers so many different aspects of football. And he was talking about, from sources that he'd spoken to, that the FA were kind of mulling over what to do with these two because they haven't even played for the 21s yet. And they were like, there is some opinion in the FA that he should go straight in. Certainly, Ethan should be going straight into the senior squad. And then there's others thinking it would be better suited for him to at least have one call up to the 21s before going to the England squad. And my view, I don't think he should be in the England squad. And that's not just me looking at it because I don't want him to be playing extra minutes and, you know, senior football and everything like that. I don't think there's a need yet for Nwaneri to be in England squad. I do think he'll go to the World Cup, but the World Cup's still quite a long way away. And so I don't think you need to thrust him into it now to prepare him for that World Cup. You know, it's been such a rapid rise for him at the moment. And I just don't think he really needs that extra scrutiny that is going to come from being in the senior England squad. I think he'd be able to handle it. I wouldn't worry that it'd phase him, but I still think you've got to manage these young players carefully, you know. And if say England didn't have many players in his position, then I'd be like, okay, put him in. But there is no real need yet. You know, they're not crying out for someone. They've got players who can play on the right-hand side of attack. You know, they're blessed with those sort of young, tricky wingers who can come inside and all those sort of players. So I don't think there's an immediate need to throw him in. I think you can easily, you know, put him in the under 21s, promote him to the 21s, and then, you know, slowly ease him into the senior squad. I think Lewis-Skelly's slightly different because I don't think England are blessed with left backs at the moment. And Lewis Hall's just been injured and is out for the season with Newcastle. So England kind of need left backs right now. And he's a little bit older as well. Not much, but he's a little bit older. And so I could understand it more if Lewis-Skelly gets in the squad. And I wouldn't be overly concerned. He's a really strong character. He's a strong personality. And I think he could handle it. I think Ethan could as well. But I would be erring on the side of caution and just not and slowly ease Nwaneri in right now. But love to get your thoughts now. I think it's a really interesting one, and I can understand why the FA and maybe Thomas Tuchel are kind of pondering what the best move is with these two, you know, very prodigious young talents. You know, we want the best players playing for England, and Nwaneri's already shown this season. You know, he's one of the best attackers England have got already, which is a ridiculous thing to say at 17, but he is. He's fantastic talent. You know, generational talent. Fingers crossed he goes on to fulfill his potential. But I'm just not sure there is an absolute need right now to put him straight into the England squad and bring all the spotlight on him that will bring. Just quickly going back to Myles before I move on to this. Myles has had endure a lot in the last few weeks. It's been a mad few weeks for Myles. There's been so much spotlight on him for completely the wrong reasons. It's admittedly some of the things he's done on the pitch have sort of brought him into that spotlight and have put extra scrutiny on him. He's totally unfairly punished at Wolves, but that turned into a huge story. And obviously there was loads of spotlight on him then, and that came just after the Haaland celebration thing, which blew up completely. Again, it shouldn't have done. It didn't need to be that big a thing, but the media made it that big a thing. Then he went and got sent off, obviously, against West Ham. Then he could have potentially got sent off against PSV. So there's lots of people sort of looking at Lewis-Skelly, and you could already see kind of rival fans and the media, some real high-profile people in the media as well, writing ridiculous stuff about him and talking ridiculous things about him, especially in the sort of aftermath of the Haaland stuff. And my fear about him going into England squad again is then that's going to open him up to more scrutiny. The new boys who get into England squad will immediately go in and put in front of a press conference as well. And some of these media, some of the big guys in the media who, as we saw and read after the Haaland stuff, seem to target him. You just kind of, I'm a little bit worried about that, but I do think that when you look, for me, he's England's best left back at the moment. Lewis Hall's had a brilliant season for Newcastle, being fantastic against Arsenal in those games we've played against him. But he's injured now. So I can understand if Tuchel does sort of rush him into this squad. I can understand it because I think needs must. But I just think Ethan's a slightly different story in that regard. So yeah, as I said, let me know your thoughts on it all in the comments below. Right, moving on to the sporting director hunt. Obviously, we're still waiting for an official confirmation from Arsenal who it is going to be. Again, in that excellent column that I was talking to you about that Sammy writes, he was saying yesterday, obviously, we know that Andre Berta is Arsenal, really sort of looking very closely at Andre Berta, and that he's believed to be at the front of the queue, and Arsenal are looking to make a pretty swift appointment from this point forwards. Hopefully by the end of this month, we could well have a sporting director announcement. Sammy was saying that there's sort of 4 people now left in the thinking, and there's going to be a sort of final round of internal discussions before a final decision made. Jason Ito is believed to be, down to the final sort of group as well. We're not sure on the names of the other 2, but it might well end up being probably Roberto Alabe and someone else. Berta is believed to be at the front of the queue at the moment, so we'll wait and see. I've seen a lot of people sort of surprised and angry that Jason Ito has got that far in the process. I think Jason has been very tarnished by what happened in January, and I'm a bit sort of reticent to really blame him for what happened in January because I don't know what went wrong in January. I don't know if it was an order from above, like we're not signing anyone, we're not doing it. He may well have gone to the board and Arteta with players that he thought, I can get deals done for these guys, and they said no. I don't know that for sure or anything like that, but I just don't know the ins and outs of what happened in the January transfer window. I've never found out, and I haven't seen it reported elsewhere from people with, certainly real sort of reporters that you would really, really trust. I haven't seen them report, it was Jason who decided not to sign anyone. So I'm a bit reticent to point the finger of blame at him and say that means that he can't get the job full time. I don't, he wouldn't be my choice. Absolutely wouldn't be my choice. I think Arsenal needs something different from him right now. I don't think a relatively inexperienced internal solution is the way forward for Arsenal at this point. I think they need a more experienced guy who can open a lot more doors at this point because this is such an important summer transfer window for them, and not just summer window, but important few windows coming up for them, and in terms of renewals as well. So, when I look at Berta's resume, I think he's absolutely well positioned to take this job, and I can understand why he's very, very close to being potentially being appointed, but we'll have to wait and see on when that announcement comes. But fingers crossed it will come soon. Arsenal's press conference later today is at the Emirates. Arteta's speaking at the Emirates. There's actually an event going on, which just meant it easier that Arteta would do the presser there rather than at London Colney today. But when we saw the email got sent out saying that it was going to be at the Emirates, I think myself and a fair few other journalists were like, what's that about? Are we going to get a sporting director rocking up at this press conference? Is that why they're doing it at the Emirates? But I'm assured that's not the case. And it is just because there's an event going on there and Arteta was going to be there, and it just made more sense to have it there. And the team might well be training there as well. So it made more sense. So if you do see the presser later and you are wondering, why is it the Emirates? That is why. Right, moving on to the Man United game. They drew last night in their Europa League game against Real Sociedad 1-1. Pretty fortunate, I would say. Certainly in the last sort of 20, 25 minutes to hold on and get themselves a draw over there. Xerxes opening the scoring for them and Bruno giving away a penalty foul. I don't understand. They were saying it was harsh on the TV. Well, I don't understand what Bruno is doing. He jumped. It was just a handball. I didn't think it was harsh at all. I just thought it was a handball. And that gave Sociedad an equalised. Perfect result, really, for Arsenal. I think that, given that the Arsenal game on Sunday is going to be sandwiched in between these two Sociedad games, there's still a really lot to play for United. Not like Arsenal, who know they're through, so they don't really have to think about what happens against PSV. They can put all their attention on the Old Trafford game. United can't really do that because they've got to look to their midweek game as well. And if Amorim's got any sort of doubts over players fitness-wise, anything like that, what's the bigger game for them in the next few days? Is it Arsenal? Absolutely not. It's Sociedad, because that's where they can still get something out of this season. So I think that's probably the perfect result for Arsenal. It was quite a demanding game for United. Tired legs on a Thursday night, having to come back from Spain, and then they've got to really think about the second leg as well. Sort of looking at what Arsenal might well do for that game. As I've said in sort of previous videos this week, I would be surprised if we see many changes. I have to say, from what we saw against PSV, the fact that he can make as many changes as he wants for the second leg against PSV, just means that I don't think he needs to worry about players being tired or anything like that. They played Tuesday night. They were home on Wednesday. They've had lots of time to prepare for the United game, so fatigue or anything like that shouldn't come into the equation. So I just think he's going to go with what we saw against PSV. I'd be surprised. The only potential change, I think, is probably Calafiori for Myles Lewis-Skelly. I've had people, let me bring it up. I just included one of them here. I think it was this one. Let's have a look. Yes, Mr. Quender and other people were saying for the weekend, isn't Lewis-Skelly suspended for having a 3-game ban since the red card? That's not the case. He only missed one game, and that was the Forest game. It was because it was a professional foul. It was a denying of goal scoring opportunity. That's not a 3-game ban. It's just a 1-game ban. So Lewis-Skelly will be fit for that game, which just makes me think if there's going to be any changes, maybe it'll be Calafiori for Lewis-Skelly. But I think he'll probably stick with Lewis-Skelly at left back for that game, and he'll bring on Calafiori potentially as an attacking change in the second half, because they just don't have many attacking changes to make. And I know it sounds mad to say a left back would be an attacking change, but such as Arsenal's limited options going forward, and such as Calafiori's quality when he does go forward, I think I definitely view him right now as an attacking change. So I think it'll be Lewis-Skelly left back and Calafiori once again on the bench, and everyone else unchanged for that game against United. But if you disagree with me, you think he should be doing anything else, of course, let me know in the comments below. Right, moving on. Surprise, shock, horror. After all the talk last week that Arsenal were potentially in for Joshua Kimmich at Bayern Munich, what a surprise. He's about to sign a new contract at Bayern Munich. It was always going to happen. It was so blatant. Of all the clubs that this happens to a lot, Bayern Munich are absolutely at the top, where players potentially might be going, everyone's talking about them potentially going, and then it just leads to them signing a new contract. So Fabrizio's reported there, or it was reported in Germany last night anyway from Bild, that an agreement is now very, very close for Kimmich to sign his new contract and stay until 2029. Obviously, there has been talk from Germany that Arsenal were very interested in. There's also been talk that PSG had submitted a formal offer for Kimmich, but yeah, no surprise there. It looks like he is staying. Aaron has got in touch and says, so Kimmich's contract renewal sounds imminent, according to recent reports. Do you think Arsenal will pursue another midfielder if they sign Zubimendi? I know Arsenal are also trying to sign Naipan, but he looks more of a project signing. With Jorginho and Partey leaving, that is two big holes to fill in the number 6 position. Rice can fill the position, but it seems that his long-term future is now lying around the number 8 role. There were links with Hugo Larsson at Frankfurt. Good goal he scored yesterday. So it's likely Arsenal may be looking to reinforce with 2 midfielders in defensive and central midfield area. I don't know, because I just think Arsenal got so much to do in attacking areas that if you're spending 51 million on Zubimendi, which Arsenal are hopeful of doing, and then you've got to really reinforce your attack with some big money signings as well, I'm not sure you can really go out and get another big money midfielder. I think they'll look at, Kimmich was a free transfer. Yes, it would have been big contract, but he was a free transfer. So that kind of made potential sense. And maybe there is another free transfer who might be out there that they might look at. But I'd be surprised if they go out and sign someone like a Hugo Larsson, for example, who will cost 60, 70 million pounds by all accounts, or 60, 70 million euros. I just don't see Arsenal having the money to be able to do that because of the money they're going to have to invest up front. I think they have Zubimendi there as a 6. They'd have Rice there as a 6 option. if needs be, Rice would drop back and play the number 6 role, and then you put someone else in the left 8 role. Havertz is going to be a real option in that left 8 role next season if they bring in a new striker, which obviously we think they will. So I would be surprised if they spend big money. And I think if they do manage to get Naipan in as well this summer, he'll be seen as a first team addition. He'll be a bit of a project signing, but he'll be absolutely seen as a first team player, as same as oh God, I've forgotten his name. What's the player who's at Tottenham scored the own goal yesterday in their defeat Europa League? Totally gone out of my head. But he's similar sort of age to Naipan, came in and he's been a first team player for them this season, and I would expect Naipan to probably be that as well. I'm sure you'll all remind me of the Tottenham player's name. That's going to really bug me that I've forgotten it. But obviously scored an own goal in their game yesterday. Street Fashion says, I want to see Max Dowman given some minutes. There's no risk, so I'd play him. You're talking obviously in the PSV game in the second leg. They can't play him. It's the same rules. Weren't sure at the start when Arsenal was sort of looking and exploring whether they could get him into European competition, UEFA competition, but they can't. Apparently, it's exactly the same as the Premier League, so he's not eligible to play. So there's no option of playing Max Dowman in that game against PSV. Right, we've got some reaction. Obviously, yesterday I was talking about the news that Arsenal had decided to raise ticket prices again, season tickets and normal match-going tickets by 5 or 3%. So I was giving my views on it, saying I thought it was a bit of a shame. From one point of view, I could understand it because of supply and demand, and the demand is so high, so I can kind of understand it. But I was thinking, after the rise last season, did they really need to do it again just for the sake of a few £1 million or £10 million? And maybe I'm biased because obviously it affects me. I'm a season ticket holder, but I just thought maybe it was a bit of a PR own goal from the Cronkies. Didn't really need to do it, especially on the back of a couple of windows when they haven't spent any money. And it's not that they haven't spent any money because they haven't got any money. It's they haven't spent it because they decided not to really spend it. But anyway, lots of reaction from you guys, so I'll rattle through some of them now. The Ginger Gooner says the season ticket waiting list is full. If people don't want to pay an extra £50 a season, then someone else will take my ticket. No point having a tantrum about it. Rosetto says, my car insurance went up this year. My rent went up this year. Gas, electric, food all go up every year. Arsenal prices going up is normal. I don't like it, but this is life. It's London, not Merseyside. Reese says, did you mention that the published accounts showed that one of the directors got over £500,000 pay rise? I didn't, but that is the case. Again, that's another example. If you want to save money, maybe don't give your directors that much of a pay rise. Apollyon says, fact is, Arsenal have lost money year on year for the last 5 seasons. It's not sustainable to keep the season ticket prices at the rate we are spending. Sure, Liverpool have kept the cost down for the last decade, but this is London. It doesn't work the same. Liverpool haven't kept the cost down. They've made a big loss this season. Again, I think they lost about 50 million this year, obviously not in Champions League. So they lost loads, and yet they still froze their ticket prices. You say wages have increased from 230 to 320, and that's eating up the Champions League money. The owners are going to have to be meticulous with their maths now. I might not agree with it, but I do understand it. They cannot continue to run a business at a loss. Can't be more simple than that. David says, if the team is actually losing money consistently, obviously that is not sustainable, but it does seem poor in taste after a window with no spending, which has left the team underperforming. Will says the Cronkies have lost a large pile of money over the last 5 years in supporting Arsenal. Shouldn't the same fans who are urging them to spend money to sign more players bear some of the cost? Mark says, don't know why you're surprised, Charles. It's all about the money for people like the Cronkies. And Addy says, if you complain we don't spend money, but also complain we're increasing prices, it's hypocritical. We demand the club maximizes all of its revenue streams. If we have a 20-year waiting list, yes, it's closer to that than 10, then it's negligent for the club to not increase prices in line with demand. So varying sort of opinions from you guys there, which is no surprise, to be honest, on whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, or not. You can't really sort of pigeonhole it as a good thing or a bad thing, but you can understand you can understand why the decision was taken. Others think maybe it was a poor decision, and that's life. Not everyone, as you point out, no one's going to agree on those sort of things. So thank you as always for your comments, for your replies. Love you guys getting in touch, and always try and share as much as I can on the screen. Like I said, later on today, myself and James Bench sitting down after Mikel's press conference, going over all the big talking points of what he had to say. We'll obviously look forward to the Manchester United game, have a little look back, I imagine, at PSV again as well, and we'll answer your questions and your comments. So please do, as usual, start them with extra time, then give me a comment, your question, and I'll pull some of them together and get them included in that show later on today. Until then, have a good one. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.